Hi, I'm MJ Hecox here at Leopold's, where we like to pair bottles with books. So our featured selection this month is a Chardonnay. We've selected Chardonnay because it pairs beautifully with so many savory dishes. Chicken, hummus, even French fries are fantastic with Chardonnay. That's because Chardonnay rests on the leaf or the yeast from fermentation, and that contributes brioche and nutty, almondy notes, making it that fine pairing with savory foods. So this particular bottle, Outer Bound, is from Sonoma Coast, from Russian River Valley. This bottle is a steal for $22, and it's a great opportunity to try this very adaptable, versatile, yet elegant wine. We think you're going to enjoy it. Cheers.
Hello and welcome to Cooking with the Cap Times. I'm Beth with the Cap Times and I'm so happy to welcome you here. We have not one but two chefs joining us tonight, Annemarie and Mark from Lalande and Bloom Bake Shop here in Madison. I'm going to turn it over to them and Lindsay in just a minute, but I would like to thank our sponsors that make this series possible. So our official kitchen sponsor is Kesnick's. That's where we are tonight and where we are every month. They always host us in their beautiful kitchen. You can come here and shop like a chef for all of your kitchen needs, whatever you need. Trust me, they have everything. It's huge in here. We'd also like to thank our official wine pairing sponsor, Leopold's. You just saw a short video from them, from MJ, showing off the wine that they chose to pair with tonight's dish. They always find the perfect wine for every dish that our chefs make, and you can go there and buy some wine, buy books, espresso cocktails. They also have everything that I need anyway. And then we'd like to thank our official video sponsor, Hinckley Productions, for making this possible. Speaking of Leopold's, you can win a bottle of this wine that you just saw about, and you can do that by asking questions throughout the live stream tonight. Just put them in the chat, and I will ask them to our chefs and get those answered for you. And then at the end of the night, we will pick one winner, most interesting question. It changes every time. And that person will win a bottle of wine from Leopold's. You can go and pick that up. We do have a live audience tonight, as always. We have some Cap Times members who are joining us to watch the demonstration live and then enjoy the final dish and a glass of wine. If you would like to be one of those people next time, you can do that by becoming a Cap Times member at membership.captimes.com. Give any amount to support our newsroom, and not only will you be supporting local journalism in the community, you also get perks like coming to events like this, so we'd love to have you join us. I think that's everything, so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Lindsay.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Hello, everybody. We are so excited to be here with Annemarie and Mark. Just for folks who maybe don't know your spots, your bakery and your restaurant, can you do a little introduction? Just tell us a little bit about what they are, where they are, what you do.
I think you should do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Annemarie, and I'm with my husband and partner, Mark, and we own Bloom Bake Shop on 1851 Monroe Street, across from Trader Joe's is a good landmark for it. And we're going into our 15th year of the bakery, which feels pretty amazing after the years we've been through.
Wow.
And Mark and I are French trained, so our passion and focus is bread and viennoiserie. However, from the very beginning, I wanted to be as inclusive as possible, so we have a really small but meaningful vegan and gluten-free bakery, and we do specialty cakes and desserts as well. Keeps us pretty busy. You think busy enough, but no. We decided to open up a French bistro next to Bloom. Oh, and we also, in addition to Bloom Bake Shop, we have a north side location, 557 North Street, and it's a collective space with Youngblood Brewing Company and Café Domestique, and we bring fresh pastry over to that beautiful space twice a day.
It's wonderful. It's a great place to work.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that because I want to keep it that way. Like,
Secret
but like, go, but yeah.
Yeah, you can chill. There's an outdoor beer garden.
It's lovely.
And it's an amazing neighborhood. We are really happy to be in that neighborhood too. But next door to Bloom in August, we took a big leap and we opened up Lalande. It's named after my grandmother. my mother's mother, Reine Lalande, but it's really a dedication to my parents who really are why I am who I am and am drawn to people like me, because both of us grew up with a family table and a passion for food and an obsession, really. And so now we get to share that in our little bistro. It's 10 tables, it's very tiny. We designed it to be an open kitchen, much like this. And here we are.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And it's very seasonal, right? Your menu is changing kind of all the time.
So it's French inspired, but very much driven by the Midwest growing season.
Right.
Like where asparagus is coming.
Oh, I can't wait for things that are green. So for tonight, we're doing a really lovely dish. I think it's going to be really fun to watch you sort of demonstrate the different parts of it, because it has several parts, but they all seem pretty accessible, at least based
absolutely.
on the recipe.
Yep.
Why did you want to do this particular dish?
I think it kind of marries the restaurant and the bakery. You know, it takes the baker, it takes the chef, and kind of marries them together beautifully. And I think it demystifies some things that people may be a little nervous to touch, but want to try sometime in their home bakery. And then just brings really classic, beautiful French flavors to accompany them. So I think it just makes sense for what we do. And hopefully you guys all enjoy it and find some new skills and lessons. And we're going to try to make it really accessible for everybody at home, for everybody sitting here with us tonight. So, yeah.
Well, where do you want to get started?
I'm going to turn it over again to my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with poaching our chicken. With this dish, classically the Bouchée à Lallande, it means to the queen's mouth, or the queen's bits, or my favorite, the queen's nibbly bits. That's my favorite one. But it's a very old dish from the 1700s, and it was when Louis XV turned 15 and they had to find a queen for him, and they turned to Poland and negotiated Mark, you say it better than me, her last name.
Oh, I forget. You told me in the car.
Queen Marie from Poland. She's in your notes.
Beautiful Polish last name. Yes.
She is. But she married him. She bore his children. The kingdom at first was not so sure about her, but she did gain their favor. But then Louis XV got a wandering eye, and she, at that time, they would go to their chefs. So she went to the pastry chefs in Marseille and said, we have to make something full of aphrodisiacs to win my king back. And I feel like, in a way, we may not use the word aphrodisiacs, but in terms of wanting to feed our loved ones, that whole tradition has not changed. So they came up with this recipe, the vol au vent, which means windswept. Carême, later on in the 1700s, a very famous French chef, took the short crust dough, which was originally part of that recipe, and made it puff pastry, which is what we kind of married the two ideas. The vol au vent is made with puff pastry, but we're doing the classic sauce blanquette and the chicken and mushrooms. You now, like tonight, I'll talk about the fact that you can do it with seafood, you can do it with veal sweetbreads, you can make it vegetarian. So we'll get started on poaching our chicken. So very French in every household are leeks. They're my favorite. I feel like they're an underloved vegetable. So you'll want to wash these, especially if you're going to use your stock again. So I like to soak them. You could either slide them down the middle and get the dirt. They like to hold on to dirt, but they're a fabulous allium. So you'll put those in the bottom. Just cut your onions up in half and put those on the bottom. Some beautiful carrots. You can really season your stock to your liking. Like, I was a little heavy on vegetables. I really want to pull that flavor out. I have juniper berries and black pepper because I like that flavor profile, but you can really use any flavor profiles you want to make your stock. You want to do a little bouquet garni. Tie that up so it's easier to kind of pull out, but we have some parsley, thyme, some celery stalk, and some bay leaf, so we'll drop that right in. And then we'll drop in the juniper berries, and they add a little bit of citrusy note, and the black pepper, and we'll put that in there. So we have that ready. And then I thought it would be fun to show you how to truss a chicken. You don't have to truss a chicken when you boil a chicken, but it does make cooking, whether you're roasting or boiling, it makes it cook more evenly.
I want to note a couple of things in the stock. One is that the carrots are unpeeled, which if I can get away with not having to do that, I love it. And also with the bouquet garni, sometimes I'll just struggle to get all those different elements in together. So we'll use just like a twist tie.
Oh, yeah.
It's a life hack.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And if you don't have it, say you have ground thyme or you have other more ground, get a tea bag and put all your spices in a tea bag and tie it off and put it in there, and you can infuse all that flavor.
They have them at the co-op. I'm sure they have them here in Castanex as well. Like they're just easy to just like stuff and then
Yes.
put them in.
So we have our chicken, we have our wings facing you, about 3 pounds.
Yeah, okay.
And then I got my legs facing here. We have our trussing line just right underneath, and you're gonna go right up to the wings. And then if you were roasting it, you'd really want to make sure this skin is pulled over, because you don't want that beautiful meat to get exposed and cook, and you want to have that nice crispy skin. So you're going to go right up under there, and then you're going to turn it, see if I can do this.
It's like rope work.
And then kind of pull that. This skin is a little pulled short, but you really want to pull that so it's kind of pulled there. And then you're going to tuck your little wings here, kind of put them up here, and then you're going to flip your legs up. And and you're going to put those up and twist here. So you got those up, and they're up. A lot of times traditionally they will have you truss it to where they're up against the chicken, but then you're not getting that even cooking. So having them kind of up in the air, and then I like to flip it again. Oh, and I did stuff it with parsley. You can see that. Didn't want to forget to tell you that. You can stuff it with whatever herbs make you happy. You could stuff a lemon up there. And then I like to bring it up here, and then you just tie it. And then you have your little drumsticks all spread out there. And then that's a nice little, and then another little tip when I'm roasting, I know we're not roasting today, but when I put it, I like to kind of put it in the back angle of an oven, and then that'll get it. And again, it's just kind of playing with that cooking time, so you're not just sitting there really drying it out in one position. That's a little roasting technique, but we're gonna lay it.
Any salt or seasoning on the chicken yet?
You just reminded me.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's like we planned it. So again, this is something more classically French in this particular dish. Is that we're gonna make a classic white sauce together. And when they would do the chicken, the boiled chicken, and then when they would boil the mushrooms, we're not going to boil the mushrooms because I am a big fan of sautéed mushrooms and the flavor that comes out of it. But they would actually pull, and it would be as white as possible. It's why they use the breast meat in the classic version. You don't have to, and it's why they would even take the mushroom and just use as much of the white part. So for lemon, if you want something to stay white, you're just going to cover all of this to boil it to encourage it to stay white. Yeah.
Huh.
So that's all we're going to do there.
I didn't know that worked.
We do have a question from Nancy. She wants to know if you truss turkey in the same way.
I have not roasted a turkey or boiled a turkey, but and I haven't trussed a turkey in that way, but I would imagine you can boil a turkey and just watch your cooking time, and just make sure you get your temp to where you want, and then use the turkey meat.
Do you truss like that when you're roasting?
I truss like this when I'm roasting.
So for a roasted turkey, you would truss like that maybe too, and it would maybe be more even in cooking. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. It's like a little packet chicken.
So we have we'll add some salt about, I'm a little heavy-handed in that department for your stock. And then we're gonna cover this with water. You're gonna cover it just to cover the top of the chicken, noting that a little bit of boiling will pull some of that water out. So I do a little bit, but you don't wanna do too much because you wanna really have it be. And this is a nice size pot. You could even go a tiny bit smaller, but you wouldn't go bigger, because you want to maximize. We don't want to be boiling this chicken all day and taking all this time with that water. Any other questions right now?
I can
Not
fill that
so
for you
far.
if you want to.
You want to do that?
I got you.
Would anything change if I decided I wanted to do like the chicken leg thigh combos, or like just the bone and breast, something like that? Like, would it be less time?
So, the boiling for like the breast alone will take less time.
Okay.
But you can use any of the meat. You can use veal sweetbreads. You could poach a fish and then cut it and incorporate it into that sauce. You could do, I guess I am so loyal to mushrooms for this dish, but you could use other vegetables that would balance well with the white sauce, and you could do that as well.
would you ever use something like, I made a roast chicken the other day and I'm going to use this leftover in this dish? Would that work? Okay.
You could.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're really like, I want to do this dish, but I don't have time, you could even go grab a rotisserie chicken
I love
and
it.
pull it. You could do that too. But it is really easy to roast a chicken or boil a chicken off. And once you get it going, you'll see we'll get to focus on Mark and we'll just let that be working and then you'll pull it off and it can be done. But you absolutely, with time saving, could have cooked chicken and it would be no problem.
Sort of like, when I was thinking about the poaching and also the reduction,
Little bit.
I think about these things that take maybe a little bit of time, but they're not needy. They're not needy babies. You don't have to like watch them
Right.
like stirring a lot. It's just sort of you kind of set it and you don't completely forget it.
Yeah.
But set it and then go do something else.
Set a timer.
Set a timer.
I'm a big timer person because I multitask a lot, so I need to have a few timers. So we'll set a little timer, but we'll keep paying. So
Yeah, do that or you want more? You
Yep, we'll put that on the
want a little more? You
stove.
Okay.
Actually, do we have a little lid like for that?
We'll find a lid.
Okay. And then put that to a
There's the
boil.
lids right down here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
For it, I did check this, Emery. It's pretty warm. I just put a low heat.
Okay, perfect. We'll just get that. We'll bring it to a boil. For tonight, I'll probably keep it at a high simmer, almost boil, just with time.
Sure.
Tonight. And you really can do either. You could have it a long simmer if you're needing to get things done. You can pull it down and simmer it, and then you can keep it at a boil and cook it faster. Just be mindful that it will cook fast and you don't want to overcook it, and you want to get it to about 165. Or if you don't have a thermometer at home, you just want to cook it and make sure the juices run clear. So I never use a thermometer at home, but now that I have a restaurant, I do tempt that for you. I am a little obsessive with it, so because I want to keep you safe. So, all right. We're going to move on to the sauce blanquette. That is really just means, the sauce blanquette. Blanquette means stewed meat in a white sauce, so it can be any meat. The velouté sauce is really adding, I have over here, is you're going to add some heavy cream. We have our house-made creme fraiche, some beautiful egg yolk, and you're going to add that at the end, and it really silkies it up. But basically this white sauce is, we're gonna make a roux. We're gonna add some cognac and some white wine. Cognac is a variety of brandy made in Cognac, France. And then the white wine, we have a Chenin Blanc. I typically use the wines left over, so we actually use really nice wine in our dish. But a dry white wine would work. And if you're not wanting alcohol in it, you could use more stock if you felt more comfortable with that. But I do love the flavor of cognac. And then we'll finish it with some stock and some salt, and then we'll let that simmer too.
My editor was asking, he said, can we say just brandy here? And I said, you could probably put in brandy, yes, but I'm going to leave it as it is, just to sort of encourage people. Like, you know, cognac is delicious.
And Cognac, France is right above Bordeaux, if you're wondering where that's located.
That's great.
So we're going to do, and I scaled this tonight as the recipe that you have as a home, if you're at home, and this feels really tiny to me because I have a big pot of it for all of you. So we're gonna do a little version, but I wanted you to be able to see it if you are cooking it at home, or you're gonna make it at home after, because you're gonna feel really confident that you can. I wanted you to be able to see what it looked like from not a big, because a big roux for the restaurant looks a lot different than if you're making it for your family.
How long does it hold?
It depends on how long it lasts.
Okay.
It doesn't last long in our house. But yeah, you can keep it in the fridge for a few days. And I haven't tried freezing it. I would more worry about the cream in it, so.
Yeah, freezing it, I would say like a good soup, right? A few days in the fridge is gonna continue to enhance the flavor. Especially like with that cognac, with that white wine, it's gonna keep deeping. Mushrooms,
Yeah, it
all
will
that
be
stuff
better
is
the
gonna
next
just
day.
continue to.
So come back tomorrow. We're not going to feed you tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. That we
If
could probably
Kesnick's
do.
has takeout, right?
Right.
No, we're going to feed you well.
I have flashbacks to times of COVID when we did need to do that kind of.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That made us creative.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take out everything.
Yeah.
I think I can smell the creme fraiche. I don't know if I'm smelling the butter or if I'm smelling the creme fraiche, but it's like this tangy, creamy.
That's butter, baby, as they say.
Butter? Oh my God. Is it just regular butter?
I take for granted when we're at the bakery, like on a Sunday, and we're unwrapping cases of butter. A case of butter for us, 36 pounds, and we'll just have it just casually. We'll have one sheet pan full, another sheet pan, and people are just standing at the door, just kind of like, we're like, oh yeah, it's just Sunday. I mean, it's.
I don't think
So you take for granted the scale you're kind of used to working on, which is interesting.
This is unsalted. Mark's going to talk about butter and European style and
Yeah.
high fat butter.
Is that what this is?
This is not the European style butter. This is classic.
Very aware of it.
But our egg yolks, I was going to say, this is Pasture Patterns. They deliver our eggs every week, and you can see that yolk and how beautiful it is. And our eggs aren't grated, which means that they come in all different shapes. So we weigh all of our
Magic
eggs.
to see the like a new staff person sort of usually the top rack of the egg crate that we get is kind of like the odd size ones. There's always some double yolked ones in there, and so they're just like two
Yeah.
yolks just came.
And we can always tell when they're
fun
changing their
experience there,
flocks because the eggs
Right.
change size and they're rotating their flocks. So you feel really connected to them.
Pasture Patterns.
They pretty much stay brown.
They're out of
yeah.
they're close to Mount Horeb.
Every now and then I'll see a beam of
Prairie
his
Bluff.
variety must
Prairie
all
Bluff
be brown.
Farms. I do believe. I think they might have been selling at Miller and Sons. Steve, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I'm pretty sure they had been.
So here you've melted your butter, and we're gonna simply put in our roux. And I'm just gonna look at the time. And we are going to. I could probably use a tinier whisk. Is there a tiny one?
Yeah, I got you.
This is like,
I was going to say,
Little baby.
the balloon whisk I find sometimes makes it a little harder. I have one,
like this one.
that has the little balls on the end. I don't know if you've seen a whisk. It looks like almost like a whisk broom. And it goes out and it has little balls on the end, and it's wonderful for this. It works really well. I mean, a little one will too, of course. But
yeah, this is nice.
Yeah.
So you want to stir your flour and your butter for 2 minutes. And the reason you really want to stir it for 2 minutes is you want to cook that taste of that flour off, because the purpose of the roux is to be the base for thickening your sauce. So you just want to stir it. You don't need to do it more than 2 minutes. But we do this when we're making our choux dough and any type of base roux, unless you're making like a brown roux, like my mother. I grew up, and every time I make a roux, I think of my mother. And I mean, she would just be over that pot till it was dark brown, making gumbo and things like that. So that's longer. But we're just going to get it to where it's going to be nice and blondie.
how high is your heat?
My heat is 3. I'm not familiar
Is that
with
like
this.
medium?
Yeah.
Depends on the hot plate. There's a lot of we were just saying
Well,
even
stove-wise, I would say
yeah.
low heat.
Okay.
stove-wise like a medium flame.
You don't need this bubbling
low.
or simmering. You're just really moving it along. And I think we're pretty
I think I've done it
close.
too hot before, and it absorbs more quickly.
Yeah, and just be prepared for it to move along a little faster than you might have anticipated, so you just take it off. And you can always, never be afraid to move your pans, right? You can take it off the flame, keep the flame on, and just give it a second, see what it's doing, put it back on, right? Interact with it a little bit, so you're not just stuck to that flame in that moment and have to race to finish it, right? So just a little bit of movement on your side, just to see where things are at. Nice little check-in points.
All right. So now we're gonna add.
How thick?
Yeah, it's not a thick. It's just melted.
Okay.
It's not super thick. Some roux you'll see, but watch what happens when we add this white wine and this cognac. We're gonna let that go, and then you're gonna see it thicken up. And we'll give that a little bit of time.
Your heat is just a little bit higher.
Yeah, I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with
that's-
this
yeah, not
guy.
either.
Yeah, I bet you're good at 5 on that thing.
Yeah. Kind of medium. But this is going to be the base of the sauce.
Well, this will be, once we add everything, it'll be the velouté sauce, and then we're gonna simmer it for 30 minutes and then let those flavors meld, and then we'll finish it with the creme fraiche and the egg yolk and the lemon juice. And I make mine a little more lemony, but you can leave it out. And I like salt and pepper and some parsley. But see how that thickened up really nicely? I think that goes right back on. And then we're gonna add our salt.
What kind of salt are you using?
This is kosher salt.
Okay. Is it Morton or Diamond Crystal?
It's,
Justos.
Oh, neither.
I was
Neither.
like, which
Justos
makes,
out of California. Yeah.
It's very flaky. Like it's a big, I don't know if you
I
guys can
love
see this, like
flaky salt.
it's a really big flaky salt.
That you might have had Meldone in there,
Oh.
which is beautiful.
I'll give Jahan credit because Jahan scaled this for me today.
All right.
Yeah, told him I'd give him a shout out.
Oh, okay.
Jill is
All right.
wondering if you can pre-make roux and keep it in the fridge. She says she uses a lot for making cream soups.
Yes, you can. You could make this roux and set it aside and let it cool and come back to it. Yeah.
That's a really good question because I put roux when I'm doing mac and cheese, like a baked mac and cheese. The roux goes in that. It goes in a lot of pasta sauce. Like you can do roux in a pasta sauce sometimes.
Yep.
So it's nice to know you can
Scoop
do it.
out a little bit of what you have in the fridge, and absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to I'm going to keep an eye on this while Mark shares pastry skills with you. We're going to let it, I'm going to kind of keep a watch on it, let it simmer for 30 minutes, and I'm going to keep an eye on this, and you can focus on Mark now.
All right, thank you. All right. Thank you. Next.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna make some Blitz puff pastry today. So that's gonna be just a slightly faster, more accessible, I think, version of a puff pastry dough. Same family. It's gonna involve a little quicker process, a little more accessible to the home baker. What I like about it is, A, it's not yeast driven and there's no proofing time and you don't have to worry about that scary, when do I know if it's ready to go in the oven piece. You can make a couple batches of it, have it in the freezer, save it, take it out, let it thaw, use it as beautiful morning pastries for your family on a Saturday, make Pop-Tarts, make cinnamon rolls, make Danishes with it, make savory items. So it's a little bit of work. It's a lot of passive time. As you'll see today, we're gonna mix, and then I'm gonna ask you to rest it for at least 30 minutes. But I think ideally in this recipe, especially if you're maybe thinking about having a dinner party, having people over, I think ideally, and the nice thing about it is you start this dough 1 to 2 days ahead of time. And I'll show you why I recommend that, to let things kind of firm up and make it accessible still for you to roll out and begin the lamination process. But you can kind of cut up your prep time a little bit. If you got a tight schedule, you want to do a little bit tonight, do a little bit the next night. It'll have it all ready for you, so you just have a couple final moves to make when it comes to dinner night or whatever you may be hosting to make this beautiful recipe we have. So, rule 1 about baking, break the rules if you have to. I ask you to use a dough hook in your recipe, but I'm gonna ask you to use a paddle, or I'm gonna use a paddle tonight. I would still consider the dough hook. I also ask you to add the liquids first. Part of that is an admission on my part. As a bread baker, I'm used to adding liquids first. We mix in bigger batches. But what I've found and what I've been taught is that striking the water with flour, you're much less likely to get little clumps of dough and little balls of dough to form, which will lead to lumps in your final dough. Whereas doing it the opposite way, you're more likely to find that to happen, at least in larger batches. So for this recipe, whatever you're most comfortable with, if you make scones at home, if you make biscuits at home, things of that nature, pastry dough, a lot of times you're gonna sort of mix those dry ingredients together to kind of break that butter down a little bit. We're gonna skip that. We're gonna just kind of bring our dough together. It's okay if we have chunks of butter in there. It's actually gonna help with our lamination process in this recipe. For a traditional puff pastry, what we would do is make a dough with a little less concentrate, a little less percentage of butter. And we would lay our dough out and basically impregnate it, for lack of a better word, with a big block of butter, lock it in, and then send it or roll it multiple times, creating really clean, even layers. But for tonight, I thought this was a really nice, approachable way, a nice versatile dough to have, something you can have in your freezer, like I said, that's got a shelf life of as long as you need it to be, as long as it's in the freezer. But if you do freeze it, I recommend take it out about 2 to 3 days prior to or before you use, just to give it time to fully thaw out. So I put my...
Is this a rough puff? Is that what you would call it or no?
A rough puff is another word.
Okay.
Blitz puff, rough puff.
I feel like the refrigerator, you would take it out and put it in the refrigerator.
Put it in, I'm sorry, yes, put it in the refrigerator. Yep, absolutely.
To thaw overnight?
To thaw, at least probably 2 nights.
2 nights, okay.
Yeah.
That's just good to know.
Same thing as, you can buy it at the grocery store too, and you'll probably buy it in the frozen section. Give it time in the fridge before you start trying to unwrap it, because you'll crack it, you'll damage it. So take it home, put it in the fridge, let it thaw out naturally in that 40 degree, 38 degree temperature, and you'll be happy that way. So I'm gonna break my own little rules here, use the paddle, but a short mix on this is key. So I'm gonna go 1 minute-ish on what this KitchenAid's given me as a first speed. I just want things to kind of get married together, right? And just for the sake of demonstration, we're gonna call that our minute mark. Things are pretty well married together. Ingredients we have in here, I have a Galahad all-purpose flour. You can use any flour you like as long as it's kind of within that all-purpose range of a 10 to 11.5% protein. It'll help keep your structure. Again, keep in mind this dough is 75% butter by math. So you're not going to build the same gluten strength as you would if we were mixing kind of our traditional puff pastry dough, getting that strong dough that can handle. It's going to be well infused with fat, but as you're going to see with our chilling process, with the steps, kind of that passive time is just as important as the active time that we're going to do in this recipe. So I wouldn't go any faster than what you hear right here, and I'm just going to kind of hold this one and guide it. So pretty quick mix, and you're gonna look at that and you're gonna say, that's not dough, that's like whipped butter, right? I know. Very whipped, very, easy to work with. Looks like I should spread it on toast right now, but we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna scrape it off. You see, I still have some chunks in here, right? I still have some visible chunks of butter. We'll address that in future stages, so be okay with that. Pretty short mix. And honestly, even though the time I had on my recipe, you can probably pretty much shorten it to what I just did right there for this size batch. You don't want to overmix it. You don't want that butter to fully disappear because it's not a yeast leavened dough. What's giving us our rise is going to be the water content in the butter creating steam, creating pockets, giving lift, and giving us beautiful puff pastry. I don't know if we'll get to that. Can't show you all the secrets yet. So I'm gonna do a little dust on the bench, maybe a little bit on my hands. I'm gonna ask you to not do too much. And also, I'm gonna ask you to avoid, at this point, anybody who's mixed a really slack or wet dough before, what's the next tendency you're gonna wanna do to that? Knead it, right?
Yep,
We're gonna skip that.
Okay.
Right? So I'm gonna just use enough flour that I can take this thing and just kind of put it into the size that's gonna get me close to where I wanna be. Meaning when I start rolling, it's kind of in the shape that I wanna work with, right? So that's today's dough. This is one I mixed yesterday. And again, kitchen magic, you find the right one. And I need a lovely assistant. Perfect. Do you notice a difference between these two as far as texture and ability? If you give it a little push.
Oh yeah, this is a lot. This is a lot harder.
Nice and firm,
yes,
right?
Very firm. Much more cohesive.
So 75% butter in this dough, right? So it needs time. Once we've sort of broken it down and worked it, it's melted a little bit, it's gotten warm. It just needs time to set back up for us. So a nice firm dough to work with for our lamination. So just give it time. This is the beautiful thing. If you're cooking on Friday, do this on Wednesday. Set it in the fridge. Come Thursday, do the steps we're gonna do next. So with Kitchen Magic, I have my puff dough here that I've done 2 book folds on. You'll see in the recipe I mentioned book folds, and we'll go through that right now. So this has been done twice just to kind of get us ahead. You'll see in here, like, I do still have visible butter. We're gonna turn this 2 more times. I'm not afraid of that. I'm also not afraid if I need to just kind of pinch and smear things, but as our final roll goes, that should kind of become a little more cohesive. And baking is an activity of, thank you, of very slow feedback loops, right? So do it once. See what you notice. See if, maybe if I mixed it a little longer next time, and kind of make it work for what you have. The butter I'm using in this is a European style butter, which is just going to mean it's got a higher fat content. It's about 83% fat content. If you're at home doing this and you have your usual butter, don't hesitate to use it. Until we start doing the kind of the proper or the long version of the lamination procedure, will it start to matter. Your butter will start to crack a little bit. There's more water content, so you're not going to get that sort of taffy-like lamination. But for a blitz or for a rough puff, start with the butter that you have at home. Other things to move to that you'll find at most grocery stores, like a Kerrygold would be a great option. That's a very accessible one you can find most places. And that's just going to have a little more taffiness because of that increased butter content.
I have a quick question.
Unsalted, thank you.
Unsalted or salted is the question.
Of course, if you're going to be making really savory pastries and you like that salt, you can use it. It's not going to affect your product. It's just going to affect your flavor a bit.
So, question about surface here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a counter at home.
Yeah.
It's like a, whatever, 1950s,
Beautiful.
whatever that was made of.
Back when they were doing it, yeah.
Yeah, and I have a wooden cutting board that's like approximately whatever, this size.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have like if the people at home don't have like a large area to roll out on, are there other surfaces that work well? Are there other ways of like getting this sort of larger space?
So you'll see, I'm going to only use about that much space.
Okay, cool. All right.
So you don't need a big space.
You don't need a huge cutting board. You can have a...
No, and I think I asked you in the recipe to roll it to about an 8x14. You can sort of make that your own. I just find that sort of dimension to be really nice as we get through continuous lamination. So
Thank you.
I'm going to start, we call it a book fold. I'm not going to be able to peel it as well as I'd like to, but you can see this is the seam, right? Okay, I can. So I want to begin rolling as though, and have this oriented as though I was reading a book with it, right? Everything is kind of, all the work we've done is moving this way. So if I was going to expect myself to roll against all these seams and get to that 14 inches, I'd be here all day doing it. So and you'll notice some rotations in subsequent folds that we do. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you start the next fold sequence, you want it like you're reading a book. So I'm going to just start nice and easy. I don't want to have to work too hard. And I take that back. I need about 3 more inches than I said. Because I recommend, instead of putting your body in this weird position, make the dough work for you. Just turn it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just flour and butter. So I only need to get 8 inches roughly with this. And then I'm going to turn it back around. Again, I see some visible butter in there. Maybe I could have mixed it a little longer. Maybe I'll learn for next time. Maybe I can just kind of smear it through. But I'm not going to stress about it. I'm going to extend this up. Just nice, easy, smooth. If you see it springing back on you, if it's really springing back on you, just put it back in the fridge and let it take a nap for a little while. Don't fight it. The gluten will wake up once that butter hardens and the process gets going. So to show a book fold, we're going to come about halfway down with the top edge. And if you get it wrong like I just did, just move it a little further down. I'm going to take the bottom edge up and meet it with that seam right there. Try to keep things kind of square. And we're going to turn it so I can read it again.
It was about half an inch there, right? That you'd rolled it to?
Yeah, I would say it's about a half an inch.
Okay.
Not as imperative at this point, other than just having a manageable sized piece to work with. That's my biggest thing at this stage. More important when we get to what we'd call the final sheeting phase, or when we're wanting to get to the thickness we want to end up at. So this is actually going to be my 4th. But I'm just going to work it. It's still letting me do my thing. Another reason we rested is because that butter will start to warm up. This will start to get tacky because it's 75% butter, right? So I'm just going to take what it gives me here. Get to my roughly 8 inches. That doesn't have to be gospel in this recipe. It's just where I like to be with a hand-rolled size like this. Top edge comes down. Bottom edge goes up. Turn it, and I threw my wrap away, but I would wrap it tight here, stick it in here for at least 30 minutes, if not a couple days, a day or two. I would recommend though, mix Wednesday, do your 4 laminations or your two sequences on Thursday, and then just have your finished piece for Friday to finish while your chicken's cooking and your sauce is doing its thing. You have a little crack of time in there. Get the kids involved doing it. This isn't, unless you're looking for awards, this is just for fun and doing at home, and we'll turn a really nice product. We'll have your guests very happy. So
Sharon would like to know if you recommend a specific rolling pin.
I like the French style, the little tapered edges. Personally, that's what my hands are used to. I'm not going to tell you it's better than any other ones. I'll get on my soapbox about pastry brushes a little later, but rolling pin wise, use what you're comfortable with. If you like the rotating, that sort of that static handle with the rolling center, use it. I like these ones, and I like this thickness personally, but 15 years later, that's what my hands are used to. So whatever tool fits your hands the best.
If you do the making of the dough on a Wednesday and you do those folds on Thursday,
Yep.
and then Friday something comes up and you just aren't able to do it,
Yeah.
will it hold?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So lemon, you'll notice lemon juice in the recipe. There's also, you can substitute vinegar. The idea there being, it's going to tenderize your dough a little bit, keep it a little easier for you to roll out. It's a very small amount in the recipe. It's also going to slow the oxidization process. So unless you're getting into like day 6, day 7, if you know by day 4, day 5, like, oh, this isn't going to happen this week,
Yeah.
stick it in the freezer.
happens.
Stick it in the freezer. You can stick it in mid lamination. You can be 2 turns in and stick it in the freezer, take it out and finish it. So don't throw it away. Not all is lost.
What does the milk powder do?
The milk powder is, a lot of times it actually also calls for malt powder. I just felt that milk powder is maybe a little more accessible to the home baker. And that's just going to be a browning agent in the oven. It's going to help us get a little bit of extra color.
Cool.
Simple as that. Yep. The last little tip on part is that if you're busy house, you got kids running all over the place, whatever, you can't remember where you were at. Because when we do a traditional lamination, we do 6 passes through with rests in between each 2. So I like to take my finger and just put where I'm at. So if I'm at 2 turns, I'll put 2 fingers in the corner, and that way when I come back to it, I know exactly where I'm at.
That's great. Okay.
And you would, I do it every day, but you would be surprised how many times I'll forget where I'm at.
I totally would.
So this is what I would call our final lamination. And then you won't have to hear my voice for a little while, but we're gonna do this part. So this has been both sequences of book folds that we did. It's been rested. This was prepared actually this morning. I finished it up. So now we're gonna kind of go to what we would call our final thickness. So here it's a little less imperative about the whole book idea because we're no longer doing the lamination. We're just getting this to where we want it to be. On the recipe, I think I mentioned using the back of a chef's knife. I think she took it as a guide. Oh, there's some in here, I think. Sorry. And I just thought sometimes it's easier to think of it that way than to think of measurements, but I'm talking about like here, depending on your chef's knife, it's very inexact, but thinner than you would think. We go down to 5 millimeters on our sheeter, if that's a better reference point. So I'm just gonna roll. I'm gonna make sure that I'm not feeling any sticking. I want this to skate every time I go to move it. I don't want it sticking anywhere. If it is, I just take a little flour. I'm not adding any more. I'm just taking a little bit off my surface, adding it in. If I need a little bit on top, just a little bit on top. Still see some spots of butter that didn't want to play ball with me. That'll teach me for next time to maybe push a little harder, maybe mix a little longer. And I know I'm going to want to make it again, so it gives me something to continue to work towards. That's the exciting part of it.
We have another question
Yeah.
for you. I have a sneaking suspicion you may know who this is from.
Oh, I think I know who it's from.
He says, would you say a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at work? And also, if I catch a trout this weekend in Minneapolis, can I bring it back to you and we can eat it together?
Only if it's on one of my flies, Will. If I can have a good day at work and a good day fishing, that's the ultimate. So that's what I'll continue to aspire to. I'm glad you made it on. Thanks, buddy. Okay, great question. How much time you got? No. Okay, so I'm gonna say I'm pretty happy there. That's maybe a little on the thicker end. Which is okay because we're doing the rough puff version. We're gonna sacrifice a little bit of the defined layering that we would otherwise get from a classic presentation. But this is just to get everybody into the game, get you comfortable doing it. I have a little series of cutters that we use, nice and very professional looking, I know. Like I just robbed a playhouse somewhere or something. So I'm gonna take my big one and I'm gonna make some cuts. And I'm gonna try to avoid doing a lot of twisting, same as if you've made biscuits. Theory goes that it'll train your dough to kind of want to spiral that way. So I'm going to kind of go here, I'm going to shake it, and I'm going to try to keep track of what side is up. All right, so just for fun, we'll just do a couple here, and for time. Good. I'm going to cut
this with a mug before.
Oh yeah, you can. I would say the sharper the edge, the better, so you don't damage
the better.
sort of that lamination that we just tried to create.
Doesn't work great.
Mason jar lid might.
Yeah.
Oh,
mason jar lid. Oh, that's smart.
And again, don't let a little piece of equipment be a limiting factor to the greater picture of it. I had a paddle, not a hook. We still made a dough. So I'm just gonna give us these few to work with right now, so I can turn it back to my lovely wife. But the small sheet pan, Lauren, or I can do it on the bench too. But so the halves that I don't cut a circle into are going to be my base. So these are going to be my base. I'm going to turn them over. I would typically line this with parchment, but for demonstration right now, we're just going to be okay. So I'm flipping those over. Why? Because when I push down, it's pushing layers up. So the theory goes that by flipping it over, it continues to make them want to go in that direction.
Okay. We do have another question from Darlene. She wants to know, if you don't have a stand mixer, how would you adjust?
By hand. Cut your butter a little smaller, add your liquid in, take a bench knife, like a metal one if you have it. Mine is gone. Take a little bench knife and just cut it. Almost like you're kind of approach it like if you've ever made pasta, like kind of make a well, have your butter in, use that bench knife, probably in a bowl just so the liquid's not running everywhere, and just kind of keep working it. I know I asked you to not knead it, but since you have to bring the dough together somehow, that's how you'll achieve that. So that, again, should not be a limiting factor.
Would the beaters work? Do you
What's
have
that?
Old school, like the double beater?
No, I don't know if I do.
That might be a little aggressive.
Okay.
Yeah,
That might get you-
that's
that
good
could-
though, because someone
yeah.
would try
Someone
that.
would totally like
That could get you started.
But actually, we gave the recipe to some of our staff to try the scaled down version, and Maggie actually did not have a mixer and did it by hand and was successful. So I was excited to be able to share that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing here, I'm gonna take my little bit of egg wash. There's a formula found on there. My little soap box. I am not a fan of the silicone brushes. I don't think they hold your wash very well. You can go to a craft store, go to a local kitchen supply store, find one with like animal hair or something synthetic like that, and you'll get a lot more bang for your buck. I'm just too often experienced with those, with the ones I just mentioned that I can't think of the word. Thank you, silicone. It's just really scattered. You don't get a clean brush. We don't want to go too thick. You notice I went pretty light. I don't want to cover the edges of our lamination. I want to just keep it on the surface. I'm going to take these little rings that I cut out. We're going to place them on top. These are going to become our vol au vent.
It's like a filled cookie.
Exactly. And see, you could do that. This could be like a beautiful Saturday morning Danish if you put the right filling into it. So sweet, savory, whatever you want it to be. So super versatile dough. And then these, for tonight's purposes, and I have slightly different ones, are going to be our little hats for the garnish on our beautiful dish tonight. I'm going to chill these again until it's time to bake. Get them nice and cold, get that butter set again. And I will also egg wash the top here very lightly. Again, trying to just keep it to that dough, which is
Do you
again
want
why
to speak to egg wash?
Yeah. What is egg wash and why do
egg
we do
wash. Egg wash, is we use a 1-to-1 ratio of full egg and egg yolk. Some people like to add water. Some people add cream. We just do the 1-to-1. It's going to help brown things nicely. Butter will also do that, but with a slightly lower heat tolerance. Milk can do that too for rolls with, again, a slightly lower heat tolerance. So depending on what you're going for in your browning, it's going to provide that to it, just like the milk powder is trying to do inside the dough. This will do cosmetically on the tops.
I sometimes skip egg washing if I am being lazy, but it
I
looks
forgive you.
quite lovely when you
Just
do it.
as long as you don't use a silicone brush.
I do not use a silicone brush.
Sorry if any of you are silicone brush lovers.
I will say I sometimes will lose the bristles.
Yes.
'Cause, yeah.
It's good to keep an eye on. If you start getting one that's shedding a lot, probably take it out of the herd.
It's the next, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that questions.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
good. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we're back to our sauce, yes?
I know. Our timing is
I
pretty
feel we're
good so
doing
far.
really
I don't
good,
know if I should say this out loud yet, but
didn't think you would take
the
his
chicken is
question.
done.
I'll just stick around. It's okay.
And I was gonna show there, sometimes when you're letting it simmer, you get a little bit of like skim on top, that fat, and you can just mix that right back in. And that we've got about 8 minutes to go. Here we'll do our creme fraiche and our egg yolk.
How do you know the chicken is done? What are you temping? You said
165.
Are you looking for any other indicators in
If
terms
you,
of texture? You want to bring that over?
Yeah. So you would strain this, but I just kind of pulled it out, and you can put it. I'll talk about the stock, but our little chicken is I think I can handle it. Baker's hands after many years, I can handle the heat. But it's cooked nice and evenly. If you didn't have a thermometer, I would just kind of go into some of the corners, make sure those juices are running clear. If you have a thermometer, I just stick it in a couple of the nice meaty parts and make sure. And then we'll let it cool a little bit. And we are just going to use the breast of this, but don't waste the chicken. There's so many good parts, and I personally am like a thigh person. I like dark meat, but we're gonna be traditional with this dish, and it is delicious that way. And then you could actually use this carcass and put it back in to pull some more of that chicken flavor if you wanted to. I'm gonna wash my hands and then talk about stock a little bit.
So originally, when you sent me this recipe, you said a 45-minute poach on the chicken, and I was like, a whole chicken, 45 minutes? Absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. And I realize now, looking at that, that's a good pound and a half smaller than almost every chicken I get, at the co-op or anywhere else.
Yeah.
You're often dealing with just a larger bird.
That's funny, because I was thinking this would be more approachable for...
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, that's a cute little bird.
Yeah.
And that's great. But I do think, paying attention, I think, to the pounds of how much protein you're poaching, and then temping it out using one of these really great probe thermometers like you guys have. I have a Thermapen at home that works really great for that. Or a Thermopop. But it's...
Oh, yeah, those are great. Yep.
Yeah, they're great. But I'm a total convert. But something like this that has that, it's really nice. So
yeah. So we'll let the chicken cool for a little bit. Oh, thank you. And then the stock, we would strain it because you have the juniper berries and all the good stuff in there. Strain that. Put this back on the stove and reduce it down for a couple hours. But I also say reduce it down to the flavor that you like for your stock. Like, I taste it. If you want to really, really reduce it down, you can let it go for hours and it's going to be a more flavorful stock. So it's really up to you. You could, right now this is like a consommé. Like, in some traditions, this dish is served as an appetizer, and this actually, once you another little trick is you could take a paper towel, because you can kind of see the fat pooling on top.
Bring it over here, maybe?
Oh.
Yeah.
And you could just take a paper towel and drop it and pull it, and it'll crab all of that off. But you could ladle that and have a little starter as a little consommé. And just so that's a beautiful way to do it. If you make it into stock, it'll store in your refrigerator for 3 to 4 days or 6 months in your freezer. So that is the stock. And then we are getting, and then you can see our base of our velouté is looking really nice.
It's a classic sauce, right?
It is
French sauce?
crème. It is one of the 5 mother sauces.
Yes, okay.
Do you know all the 5 mother sauces?
I do not. I could name
I have a little fun way for you to remember them. Do you guys want to, do you like, you like acronyms? So I have a good friend named Beth. Her last name is not V, but we'll say Beth V. So bechamel, you have espagnole, which is a brown sauce. You have tomato, you have hollandaise, and you have velouté. Yeah, velouté, which is what we're doing.
Beth V.
Beth V.
Okay.
So that's a nice little way to remember your 5 mother sauces. It's my goal with our team is, even if they're staying with us for a season at the restaurant, I want them to walk away knowing, like Jahan, who's with us, is actually going to be a computer programmer. He is absolutely lovely. And I'm like, you're not leaving till you know all the mother sauces, and you're going to use that in your computer programming interview. And you're going to come back and tell me that's what got you the job. So Carême, Antonin Carême, 1700s again, grew up a poor child, as the story goes, and there's a lot of different theories that his father pushed him out and he had to find his way, but he ended up taking his first job young as working for a pâtissier and became very known for his patisserie. And then throughout his life, he started getting into more acclaimed kitchens. Escoffier kind of built off of Carême. And so the mother sauces came from Carême, the vol au vent, which we're making today that Mark's teaching, and then Escoffier in the early 1900s took off with that. So a little French history for you. And this is the egg yolks and the creme fraiche. You can get creme fraiche ready-made. You can make it at home if you choose to do all of these things at home, or you can use heavy whipping cream. You just want a nice thick cream.
Why do you mix them together before you add?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to. I could have put the creme fraiche in here. I think as a trained baker, I temper everything. I tend to temper. I like things to get pretty. Sometimes you'll read in recipes, they'll just say put a little bit in, temper it and put it in. But having trained many people and having to take away their scrambled work, I'm always like, just go a little bit longer and temper in. And all you're doing by tempering is taking a little bit of the warm sauce and you're mixing it in. And then I like to get it to where they're pretty much even, so that when I incorporate this lusciousness into there, it's gonna just stay luscious. So
that's part of why I asked, because I have been the scrambler.
So
We've all been the scrambler, Lindsay.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's how you learn it, you know?
It's just a really depressing moment.
It is.
Well,
It is.
all that.
There. I got you.
So we have that, and then we'll go, look at that, 6:59. We're just gonna go 10 minutes and let that simmer. And then we will be ready to, I gotta saute some mushrooms for you and cut our chicken into little cubes. You don't have to cut it into cubes, you could pull it. You can, either one of those probably.
All right.
And then we'll assemble. Mark, did you have another step of yours?
Just maybe a tip real quick. You've worked on this beautiful dough, you spent all this time with it, you're attached to it, you love it. But then you have this piece right here. You've cut everything you need out of it. You got all your shapes. Reuse it. I would suggest when you do that, try to be strategic about how you put it together. Don't just clump it all together. Kind of follow the same idea what you were just working with, right? Kind of think about those folds we just did and get it to a nice point, and it won't be perfect, but get it to kind of a nice point. Wrap it tight, give it some time in the fridge, take it out, roll it smooth. If you want to give it one more fold just to kind of smooth up some of this and make it nice and even, more time in the fridge, take it out, cut it out, make cheese twists, make whatever you want, little garnishes for things, little crackery type appetizers, etc., etc. Sky's kind of the limit on that. I would say don't do anything too defined with it, because puff pastry's kind of got a mind of its own. If you start twisting the layers too much, it kind of does things that you wouldn't anticipate, but it would make beautiful twists, beautiful little snacky things. So,
How did you know that someone had asked what they should do with the scraps?
that's perfect.
I'm right there.
Why am I even here?
Yeah, I'm in your head. Yeah, no. Yeah, do that. Any other ideas? I think cheese sticks are a great way
Did
to
you
go.
mention Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, I would. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can roll this out. It's gonna be. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. I'm gonna do just a quick, don't quote me on this kind of version, but it's gonna be pretty close. Two ways you can do it. You can take your piece here, you can lay your cheese in, fold it over, take a knife, cut strips the size you want it to be. Right, I would have relaxed this a little bit. And then you can do a little thing, and I probably would have kept it longer, but you can kind of do this thing where you just twist it around and give it time to chill. And you'll get this cool definition of the cheese and the, again, I would probably go a touch, well, depending what you're doing. There's no rules to what you do with your scrap or your other dough. You can kind of stick it to your parchment like that, and it should stay in place for you.
The cheese goes inside.
Cheese would go inside of this little fold right here. Or any filling you want. Jam, if you want to do jam.
I mean, I definitely want to do cheese.
You can do like, you could do Danishes, like I said, Pop-Tarts. Who doesn't love a Pop-Tart on Saturday morning, right? You just cut your sizes. Again, don't quote me on the sizes right now. Little filling here, maybe either a little water, a little egg wash, something to help keep things sticky, because this puff pastry will like to spread and then break seals or break seams open. Little jam inside, a little bit over the top. You can take a fork and do that. Another way I like to do it is, I'm just gonna get creative with this. You can do little kind of fluted techniques like so. And it kind of gives it a little different level of not the prettiest work I've ever done, but here we are, making something out of something we might have otherwise thrown away. So
No, but I feel like I've had something very similar to that shape at the North Side Bloom.
yeah, yeah, we do our turnovers kind of like that. We've done Pop-Tarts. I would consider maybe cutting a little slash in the top to give it a vent, because it will like to puff, and then that puts a lot of stress on those seams. So that little vent will let it do its thing, while also letting it kind of breathe without blowing it apart, kind of thing.
If it blows apart, is it still delicious?
Absolutely. Because you made it.
You made it.
It might not be pretty to eat. You may not do it on a first date thing,
Right.
but
I'm just saying, like, most of my food is very unbeautiful, but it tastes real good.
yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going for, ultimately, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I always like to know, like, how badly did I ruin it?
unless you burned it, baked it till it was black, it's going to be good.
It's probably all right.
It's like buttery air is what I like to think of it. When it comes out of the oven, it's this light little, and that's a good indicator of when it's done, right? At minute 20, grab one, lift it real quick, see how it feels. Give it 5 to 8 more minutes, and then see how it feels. You'll feel a significant amount of evaporation has occurred. It's going to be a lot lighter of a pastry. They can take a lot of heat, just don't overdo it, and don't let it be raw, right? Don't never go under. If I'm ever in question, I give it 4 more minutes because it can handle it. And you don't want that raw kind of. It's not as appetizing as the crispy, buttery air that we're creating. So, yes.
And I think just to, right, I am sauteing mushrooms, and we'll talk about that. But just to add on to the baker part, because I can't help myself, is I think for us as we've spent a big chunk of our life baking, and people feel intimidated by this. I think the things where you don't want to break the rules is that scaling and measuring and making sure, because that is a science compared to like a little bit of olive oil here when we're sauteing the mushrooms. But I do think it's fun, like if you feel that something isn't, I think Hope Mark kind of inspired, like if things aren't looking exactly as they should, still keep going, because you're gonna probably still wow the loved ones in your life.
You'll be so grateful for all of the folding.
Oh yeah, all of the love, the care, the folding.
So I have just taken a little bit of shallot because I love shallot. You don't have to do, with sauteing these, you wouldn't have to. Just do a little olive oil and mushroom if you had someone that was onion averse. And I'm just giving them a little saute and kind of sweating them because I love the flavor. You could roast them in the oven as well if you wanted to. And like classically, you might find a Frenchman boiling them. They kind of boil them and then pull them apart, and then they would be making the little mushrooms cut out the whitest part into little tiny cubes. It's really so interesting because you'll see this dish all very cube oriented. But I tend to like a little more of a rustic look anyway, on that French countryside.
I'll work this if you want to cut chicken.
And then
just all you want.
the rest of the mushrooms. Yeah. So we're gonna finish up the mushrooms. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. I do more than roll puff pastry.
And then we are going to just come down the center. I mean, you can do this with your hands too, and just pull in here and pull that meat out. Get a little more in there. And you'll cut away all of that breast. Just looks a little bit pink in there. And we'll pull that out. Don't be afraid to use your hands and pull all the meat off of the bone.
Oh, you gotta have it cool.
Yes.
Otherwise, that as soon as you get in, it's gonna. Whew.
Yeah.
I do not have baker's hands.
Yeah, many years of grabbing hot things. And then the rest of this chicken, pull all that beautiful meat off. You can make, it could get included into your dish. You could save it and make many other items with it. And then we'll let that cool a little more. And I'm gonna wash my hands really quick because I forgot to add the lemon juice. Which you can add at any time, but I love lemony things. Do you guys like lemony flavor? Okay, good. No lemon, not lovers. So I would add it, like I know this is the amount that I like, but I would add it slowly because you can always add more. But
it is hard to remove lemon.
not impossible, but it is hard. Yeah.
Sort of like getting rid of something too salty, you just like throw a potato in it or something.
Yeah, you can go that route.
Yeah. Potato will absorb.
A lot of things. Yeah. And then
I'm a notorious undersalter.
I'm going to
at
taste
home,
it.
So I like it. I try to tread that line.
I'm going to add a little salt and a little pepper. And I love adding parsley. Where's my little?
It smells really, really good. It smells like wine and citrus and
Very cognac-y.
yes, very cognac-y.
And then, thank you. And then, do we have a strainer? Just to strain it a little bit?
Sure.
Little strainer. This is just straining off a little bit of the extra oil. Again, if you want the oil, but I like it just to see if I can pull a little bit off of it since I do like to saute it. And then we're just gonna take your chicken and cut it. And you'll cut it one more time.
Just so it's sort of bite-sized, right?
Yeah.
Let's do that one. Yeah?
And then you'll
What are we
cut it
doing
into
here?
little squares. Just straining it.
This?
Just pulling some of the olive
I go into this?
Yeah. You could use olive oil and butter. You could use butter. We're clearly fans of butter, you know? And
Did
just,
you always cook together, the two of you?
yeah, I think so. I think we've
from the
always,
beginning?
What's that?
it's our,
Always cook together.
it's our,
Yeah, I think one of our first dates was like a really failed attempt. Somebody scaled it. That wasn't me. At Turkish Turkish
you had
Delights.
scaled it and I didn't know you scaled it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we have to go back to the
been the
Turkish. We need
story.
a Turkish delight redo.
And we've had years of fights over who
Boiled
can
eggs.
hard boil the right egg.
Because my
the right
dad
way.
boils the best
Yeah.
hard boiled eggs.
It's an ongoing. She might have the edge on me on it, but
I feel like sometimes when I'm in the kitchen with somebody else, I have a tendency to be like, this is my space and I need you to be
Yeah.
doing the things that I want you to do, which is sometimes fine and sometimes not fine. So just like that dynamic in the kitchen of like who is the alpha?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, baker chef. So there we have it. We just created businesses.
But I think
I'm just kidding.
But you're a baker too. Like
Yes,
you've been a baker
yes.
for years. Yeah.
I think
No,
you're being nice. I feel like I am a little bossy.
Oh, you are.
I'm like
I just needed the green light to say
reason
it,
that
so
there's
there we have
the
it.
colored cutters is because I did want a very specific size. I was like those colored
Yeah.
cutters, and I was like, I can't find the size I want. And then I finally found them, and they weren't silver. They were little.
But I think it's good. Like I talked to some of my bakers, and they're kind of territorial around that oven. They're like, I kind of like the pace. I know what I'm going at. And so it's like trying to merge different people's habits and speeds and things to kind of bring them all together. And I like that, honestly. I like that people really take that pride in their space. So there is like a kind of a give and take, you know?
yeah.
It's challenging, I think, sometimes to work together, especially in something like cooking, where it is kind of specific to you and how you want to move, and to like find that collaborative rather than sort
Right.
of adversarial
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're lucky.
I think in the cooking world, you're much more studious than I am. I'm a little more. I'm the guy who loves to clean the pantry out and see what I can do with it. And she brings a ton of knowledge and the skill sets.
I
and
will
like
sit
does
for
a lot of
days
background
to research, and then I want you to know the entire history behind every
Right,
piece of it, so that we feel the soul of this dish when Marie was creating it and desperately wanting to win Louis back.
And I'm like, it's Wednesday night. I don't want to go to the grocery store. What
It
can we
didn't
put on
work.
the table tonight?
It didn't. So we're gonna add the chicken into the dish. We're gonna add, and we did get like straining it was nice to pull some of that extra because we just want the flavorful mushrooms. We're gonna add the mushrooms. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands one more time.
Oh, they smell
Just
so good.
habit.
Everything
Mushrooms
smells
are-
wonderful tonight. It's a really aromatic cook tonight, I think.
Then we have,
It's like a little popover.
so it's the little vol au vent. So, and you will, like this will puff up and you'll just push it down. So you too can make this. And then the little hat. And then what's really fun with your extra dough is you can make something decorative. So I need a spatula. Yeah. Actually, that too. Thank you.
This was made with the traditional lamination method at the bakery. And I tell you that because not to deter, you're going to have a great result. Don't expect the same amount of height, just full disclosure, from the Blitz Puff, but use the Blitz Puff that we did today as a gateway to keep being curious and exploring, because you can get to that at home. Convection, if you have it, for sure. It creates a more dynamic environment for the puff pastry to be in, creates that wicking and that steam. If you don't have it, don't worry, still bake it. It's gonna still turn a nice result. This is like minutia detail, but if you have the convection option, absolutely do it. Makes me curious about an air fryer. I'm not very versed on an air fryer, but theoretically you could use an air fryer for it.
Someone has to do that and tell us.
Yeah, somebody do it.
A ladle without, just a spoon without.
Yes, you showed me that earlier.
Oh, perfect. Just this one's
Thank
good.
you, Lauren.
That one's good. Just to get
Lauren
some
knows
of
where
that.
everything is.
I love it. Thank you, Lauren. So we are filling the cavity with the mushroom. So Mark and I were in Strasbourg and had this dish, and it wasn't
A lot of
served as a
truffles involved.
yeah, it wasn't. It was this beautiful lunch, and we love Strasbourg because Mark actually speaks fluent German, and I am a Francophile, and so it
Truth
was a
check on
very
that?
lovely
Yeah.
place for us to be.
Decent, pretty good. Yeah.
He's being shy about that, but and we had this dish, and it was served as lunch, and it was served with all these beautiful shaved truffles on top as well. You put your little hat. Actually, I like to do a little more fresh parsley, and I love fresh herbs. You'll find that at the restaurant. I love, and then I like a little extra lemon zest on there too, and a little hat. Voila!
Yay! Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, making this beautiful dish. I feel like that was so instructive and lovely, and obviously you can read people's minds, so I think
Yes.
we'll pick the telepathic communicator as our winner. Katie,
Oh, nice.
you win our bottle
Beautiful.
of wine, so if you
Yay,
want to stop by
Katie.
Leopold sometime within the next week and pick that up and enjoy that, will you maybe try this dish? Thank you one more time to all of our sponsors. Kesnick's our official kitchen sponsor, Leopold's our wine pairing sponsor, and Hinkley Productions our video partner. And I think that's it. So without further ado, we hope you'll join us next month. But thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.